Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more old world content. And why the hell wouldn't I be bringing you old world content? Because it is officially old world launch day and welcome to a new system. So I have of course been enthralled in the old world since I received some of the new kits a couple of weeks ago, and I've been pumping out videos furiously for you guys on basically every topic that I get my bloody hands on. I promised you guys a video for every single faction before the launch. Fortunately, I fell behind just a little. I haven't done Warriors of Chaos yet, but pretty much everything else has been done now, and I'm super proud of that. For the launch itself, I had planned on doing something a little bit more special as goes a painting video. I was going to get my Marienburg Empire land ship finished off as a little video series, just as a really nice kind of special piece to show you guys. But unfortunately, a few things this week didn't really line up the way I wanted them to, and I was left with a little bit less time. So what I decided to do this one is to get my High Elf video done, and for that I decided to tackle a very special model to my heart, which is the High Elf Lord on Griffin model from the Island of Blood kit. I used this as the general for my elf army for 50-60 games when I was running elves in old Warhammer, and I never even glued it together properly. I basically cut this push fit model out of the sprue and pushed it together. Didn't clean off the flash, didn't clean off the mold lines, didn't put any paint on, I never sprayed it, nothing. It was absolutely shameful, and I definitely think it's time that that model got repaired, cleaned up and painted up to the standard that he deserves to be done many years ago. So that's what I'm going to tackle here in today's video. I'm going to get that Elf Lord on Griffin painted up for you guys and looking well. Before I get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing. Without you guys, I could not continue doing what I am doing. If you're interested in getting involved with that and supporting the channel, there are links in the description below. Access to a private Discord server and an extra single video every single week are just two of the awesome rewards that you do get. The second point I want to bring up is on the 10th of February, I will be attending a old world event, the first old world event ever held in Ireland. It will be happening in Underworld Gaming here in Dublin. There are tickets still available. I will leave a link in the description below if you want to come in and join it. I will be kind of TOing it, but definitely still playing in it. It's 1,000 points games day. It's not really a tournament, so you don't need to worry about like competitive play or anything like that. We're going to teach each other how to play. We're just going to have a good time with the old world, and we're just going to be excited and enjoy it. So if that's something that interests you guys, check out the links below as well. Okay, without further ado, let's get in and get this elf painted. And this is my beloved old Warhammer Griffin from Island of Blood. One of the most vital things is the lance never broke off. It was a notorious piece for snapping off, and mine is still in one piece despite being stored in a not very pleasant way for many years now. So I'm very happy with that. I started to notice, like I said, that the flash and stuff was still on the model, which of course made me feel awful. And then I started to feel the model and realized that it was in fact not even glued together. So I decided to pull all the parts apart again and do a proper job getting this piece cleaned up, all the mold lines removed, all the flash removed, everything fit properly, and then glued back together in this state. So it's now perfectly ready for paint. So this made me happy. Even seeing it here in the flesh, like fully built again for the first time in so many years, just made me feel good. And like I said at the beginning, this was the general of my High Elf army and a model that I used in 50 games of Warhammer. So I think it's only right that he be treated with the reverence that he deserved and get some paint on him. So after my usual basing of Chaos Black and then Grey Seer, we started with some contrast. So Skeleton Horde was the first one I chose, and that's for all of the kind of tan colored feathers that are on this guy. I did use some images on, I just typed the model into Google Images, pulled up some images and tried to find the different areas of the model that should have like tan feathers and brown feathers and black feathers and stuff like that, and then I started to block them in. Now, a very awkward model to film because obviously the wings come out so far and the camera's autofocus just loves to focus on the closest thing. So unfortunately there will be a few bits where stuff goes out of focus for a second. I hope you're a little bit more patient with the video. It was a pain in the backside, and hopefully I managed to get rid of most of the clips that caused that and give you a smooth viewing experience. There's obviously 3 or 4 or 6 layers of feather on the wings, so it was about trying to decide which ones were going to be what color. And in the end I actually did get it wrong, and I switched out the color for the biggest set of wings. You'll see that a bit later on. But Skeleton Horde did follow through on the middle section of feathers, and then a little bit closer to the front got a layer of Skeleton Horde. Also, this thing is half lion or panther or anything like that, and Skeleton Horde is a perfect like lion color. So I went ahead and gave that a coat of the contrast as well. It looks rough now, but it will get tidied up a little bit later, so don't worry about that. we are going to focus solely on the Griffin to begin with, and then worry about the guy riding it after. Gore-grunter fur was then the brown that I brought in for the next stage of feathers. And this will kind of continue on from where the Skeleton Horde stopped and go into that. I always like going from the lightest to the darkest colors. So for instance, I can be a little bit sloppy with the Skeleton Horde, and each stage up in color gets progressively darker so that I can cover over Skeleton Horde if I made any mistakes. And then obviously the next color is darker than that, so I can once again continue and cover up any mistakes. You can't go the other way though, so do be careful not to stain anything that's not supposed to be that color. Gore-grunter fur is a beautifully rich brown tone, which works perfectly for like the kind of hawk or kestrel-esque look that the front of this beast is meant to look like. Obviously it can look any way you want. Now I got to this point and realized it was a bit too tan, a bit too brown, so I went in and grabbed some black Templar. And I went for the outermost section of feathers, the big tall section of feathers. I did decide to do them in black, just to darken down the overall silhouette of the Griffin a little bit. I think it was the right choice. After I've done the dry brushing and stuff afterwards, you'll see the result. And like I said, I think it's the right choice to do. I think the brown was just a little bit too much brown, and the black helped to break that up just a little bit. As you can see, I'm being careful. Like I said, darker color is a darker color. So I want to go over that brown, but I don't want to hit any of the tan because it will stain it quite badly. And it does go over in one solid coat, which is nice. Black Templar is a glorious contrast color. One that I'm now currently out of, so I do need to order some more. So the black definitely did what I wanted it to do. And obviously while those particular colors are drying, I can add a little bit of yellow into the claws and the beak of this guy, and for that I'm going to use Iron Jaw's yellow contrast. It's a nice kind of mustardy yellow, if you will, and I think it works perfectly for that like hawk's feet look. And of course his beak will be the same color, yellow. And obviously these are push fit models, so there are certain details on it that aren't, you know, magnificently sculpted, and the inside of the beak, inside of the mouth is one of them. It's a fairly flat, solid thing. So we did the yellow. We got a little bit of black on some of the nails. And with the mouth, we will just tidy it up later on with some black on the inside and then paint the tongue, and it shouldn't be too bad. Screaming Skull was then brought in to dry brush over the entire Griffin, every single part of it. Obviously taking my time not to overdo it. Just catching all those sharp edges and all the designs kind of built into the feather to give it some texture. As you can see, there's not a lot of paint on my brush, and I'm doing multiple kind of passes to make sure I transfer the right amount of paint. You can see left wing to right wing, the difference that a dry brush does make in kind of pulling all those details to the front. And of course, when you finish dry brushing up the entire bird, it does make a massive difference to the entire aesthetic. And it definitely gives me those like hawk vibes, if you will, eagle vibes. I was really happy with it. Didn't take too much time either. And that meant that we could now move on and tackle the rider. So I'm going to take Flesh Tears Red, and this is the bit, the rider, especially in painting him, that I kept losing focus because I just wanted to focus on the finished Griffin model. But obviously I'm going for the High Elf scheme, which is not the silver and blue. I'm going for the gold and red look, which does feature in actual High Elf lore. I just think it's a little bit more striking. And I've obviously got other people in my friends group painting up traditional elf color schemes who are much better painters than me. And the last thing I'd want to do is try and paint something that would be the same scheme as them and compare it to their model. So I'm going to stick to the red and gold for me. It was the color scheme that I wanted to do a long time ago, and I never got around to doing. So obviously I do quite a lot of red to begin with, basically blocking the entire model with the red. The reason for this is it acts as a perfect base coat for gold, as well as being the first coat on all of the red cloth. So I know it seems like a bizarre thing to do, but I do promise you, like the pale gracier coat and then painting gold over it, it doesn't go over very well. It leaves it quite pale looking. Whereas if you add the red underneath it and then add the gold, it becomes much warmer, much richer, and gives you a much cleaner coat to start with. So that's what I'm doing here. I've got Retributor Armor Gold on my plate, and I am blocking in all of the armor on this miniature that I want to be gold. Now, obviously there's a lot of thought that goes into this. What parts should be gold, what parts should be silver, what parts should be left red. And it's all about just taking your time, making those decisions, looking at some reference pictures. But at the end of the day, it's your model, so if there's particular parts you want to be red and particular parts you want to be gold or silver or blue, it's totally up to you to do that. Like for instance, at this point, I think I painted the chainmail on his like calves in gold. And then later on I realized I wanted them to be silver, so I just painted over them. So I got the lead felcher out here. I started blocking out all the silver parts. For me was his stirrups and the like I said, that chainmail on his legs. The spear tips, obviously the spear tip, I thought just the tip of it was going to be silver. And then as you can see, the gold bit that goes into that flag, that's not how that works at all. There is the edge of the flag which is gold, but the entire like bladed top of that should be one color. There's no natural break in it. Obviously I went back over and fixed that up and painted it. And then any other parts on the miniature that I thought would appreciate some silver detail, the star motif on the back of his shield and stuff like that, also got done in that silver color. Another part that's going to be really difficult to film is the face. He's got this tiny little slit in between his armor which gives you his face, so I just threw some Guilliman contrast in there to give me a starting base coat, and then obviously we'll do some layering up on it later on. But as you can see, I couldn't get the camera angle right for you to actually see it. Here's all the gold anyway on the model, and as you can see, it does make a huge difference. I decided to feathers on his head, dress as big red and stuff like that, just so it really stands out. Reikland Flesh Shade was then brought in as the shade on the entire rider. So obviously I didn't want to hit any of the bird with this, but everything else, all the red, all the gold, all the silver, the skin tone, the reins, the entire lance, the banner, all of it got hit with a Reikland Flesh Shade as a nice little shade to all those parts. Basically pull all those tones together and give me a really beautiful base for layering up this miniature and getting it looking quite a swish. I do need to pull out my entire High Elf collection. It's not massive, but I think it's a respectable amount. There are definitely lots of gaps in my collection, but I need to pull it out and see what I've got so far, to see what I need to try and get my hands on to make it the kind of army that I want it to be. Fulgurite Copper was then brought in as the first layer coat to all of the gold. And as you can see, I'm trying to focus on the bits that the sun will hit off of, so the brighter points. Being careful not to hit the red. We haven't layered up the red yet, but we don't want to have it covered in gold. We want to leave all those nice dark recesses, all that shaded area. Fulgurite Copper was indeed nice, but I decided to bump it up a little bit brighter. So I pulled out my Ironbreaker. I layered up all the metallic parts, so all those kind of scale mail parts on his armor, and then of course all the gold as well got these tiny little touch highlights just to make it pop a little bit more. And this is where he really started to come together. Once you start seeing one aspect of a miniature, whether it be the armor, the cloth or whatever, finished, I think that really does drive you forward and make you want to continue painting and make you finish the piece. So for instance, when I got the whole bird done, I was like, okay, I can kind of see where this is going. I'm really happy with this so far. Let's continue on. Mephiston Red was then used as the first layer for all of those red parts. And this is another part where you really do have to take your time with this specific part. There's quite a lot of fabric on a model like this. There's a lot of folds. It really is just a key feature. It is quite bright and vibrant. It will stain anything else you hit with it. So please take your time. Try and leave those recesses nice and dark, and then hit everything else with a nice bright coat of red. We are going to jump up and go even brighter again with the red in a moment. And as you can see, even things with a headdress, I'm painting on each individual kind of feather and leaving that nice dark line between each. That means just taking your time, doing one at a time, not rushing it, because that's going to be like a really focal point of the model. Of course, we're going to basically do the entire step we just did, but again with Evil Sun Scarlet, but we're going to go a little bit less. Once again, leaving the contrast there, that darkness in the recesses, and then pumping up the very tippity top highlights with the Evil Sun Scarlet. And once again, same thing with the headdress. We're going to play it in, go kind of halfway up the headdress, and then kind of pull it forward and stuff like that. After that, we are going to hit it with Akkadian Flesh Tone and a Kislev Flesh on his face. Like I said, it is really hard for you guys to see what I'm doing here, but you can only really see the tops of his cheeks, top of his nose, and a bit of his chin. So those are just the little bits that you highlight, and you don't need to worry about anything else, really. Anything else would be a waste of time, because like I said, it's not one of those bits that people are going to pay attention to or be able to see when they're looking at the model. High Elves being one of the starting 9 armies for the old world, I am curious to see what kind of miniature release they get, what kind of old models come back into production we can get our hands on. And maybe I can plug some of those gaps in my collection quite fast. and get those armies where I want them to. My plan is to get all 9 starting factions for the old world done as armies for the channel. So the studio has those armies. Talazar Blue was then brought in for all of the gemstones. Obviously, when I did the Ironbreaker step, I painted all the gems up in bright silver so that when I did get to this point, I could just throw a Talazar Blue over the top of it. Now, there is a couple of different stages that I did on this model that I just didn't cover in the video. The inside of the mouth, like I said, was blacked in with some Black Templar, and then some Burgundy and some Screamer Pink was used for the tongue. With the eyes, I just blacked out the eyes, and then I used kind of the fang and a brighter blue for some slits. Threw some gloss in there as well to finish it off, and then added some grass tufts to the finished base, and that gave me my completed High Elf Lord on Griffin, a model that I have owned since the day Island of Blood came out. I bought one literally, I was working there at the time, grabbed the model, and unfortunately it's taken this long, which I think it was, I can't even remember the year it came out, but it was a long time ago now. And yeah, it just makes me happy to have him finally painted in my collection. And it obviously, having a finished High Elf model will encourage me to get the rest of the models together and painted. So let's see if I can get that done in the next couple of weeks and months, along with the other 8 factions for the old world. A couple of still images here to give you an idea what it looked like on the table. Okay guys, and there we have it. One High Elf Lord on Griffin from Island of Blood, painted up, finished, and ready for the tabletop. I am exceptionally proud of this piece, mainly because it got left unloved for so long, and because I used it in so many games. Like, there's something different to, you know, a model that you left in a blister pack and you never built, but something that you literally played games and you have memories of this thing doing awesome deeds in battles, and you left it in the absolute state that it was in at the start of this video. So I'm super proud of it now, and I can't wait to get the rest of my High Elf army painted up and play some games with it in the old world. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I do, of course, have a bunch of more old world videos on the way. There should be a battle report out. It should be out already, actually. So make sure you go back and check that out. I'll be doing more battle reports. I'm running basically a Tales from the Old World campaign with a bunch of people. So we're going to be building up armies in a slow growth style campaign. You're going to see a lot of interesting content around that as well. And basically just engrossing myself in as much old world content as people can tolerate before they start giving it out to me. If that's something that interests you, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and ask me any questions you want in the comments below, and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to the end of this. Happy Old World launch day. I'll see you in the next video.